innocence. It's something that we instinctually know to protect. Like we've been pre-wired to see a child in need and automatically want to reach out to help. But what if that pre-wired disposition to intervene could be exploited? There's been cases reported of serial killers using audio recordings of babies crying to lure unsuspecting women out of their homes, or even parents using their kids as lures for panhandling. On the other hand, the altruistic nature of being willing to come to the aid of a child is also a survival trait. It helps ensure the continuation of our species, because without our youth, our species would diminish. This is also why it's so rattling to hear about children committing crimes, or on the other hand, being hurt. So, our instinct to protect and assist children is both our greatest survival instinct and also something that could leave us vulnerable. And here is where our story begins. It was a long day. Between early morning pre-med classes at my university and the 6-hour shift at my local cafe, I was beat. I pulled into my reserved spot at my apartment complex, grabbed an extra-large double-shot espresso I had made for myself, and my backpack out of the back seat of my old beaten-up hatchback. I slammed the door with my hip, hands full, and started up the stairs that led to my apartment. It was around dusk, and the soft illumination of the setting sun made everything glow. I was so happy and relieved to finally be home. I heard a cough from below the stairwell, and I spotted 3 kids pass under the stairs. I didn't think much of it. This was a busy apartment complex, and there were kids everywhere. They seemed to be around 12 to 15 years of age, all slender and varying heights. They wore dark gray hoodies and jeans. Nothing unusual at all, except, unlike most kids who walk together, these kids weren't talking. They weren't even looking at their phones. They just walked. But that wasn't really odd. However, there was this strange feeling that emanated through my veins. A slight sense of panic flooded through my body, and I found myself moving quicker up the stairs. As I reached the last few steps, I heard a clang of something hard bounce off the stairs, and I saw a small rock fall back down toward the ground. I reached for my keys, instinctually looking down, and I watched as the kids passed the other way under the stairs. Did they just throw a rock? I asked myself. I shook off the anxiety and hurried into the house. I was taking a lot of psychology classes at the time, and I found myself assessing my behavior. You're stressed. You're overworked. You're running on no sleep, I told myself. I took a sip of the cappuccino and then dumped out the rest. And you are completely over-caffeinated. I tried to shake the sensations of fear that were emanating through my body. And I thought of all the logical reasons why I was experiencing these feelings. Those poor kids had done nothing to me, and there was nothing to substantiate that they even threw the rock. I decided to take a hot shower and clear my head. It had been a long day, and I had a long night of studying in front of me. After my shower, I felt so much better, and I decided to put on my comfortable university sweats, throw my hair into a ponytail, and get to work studying. As I was brushing my hair to put it up, I looked out the window. I could see people running with their dogs on the trail behind the lot, cars coming and going, and sitting down near my car were the 3 kids. My eyes landed on them. What the hell? I thought to myself. And as I said the words, all 3 looked up at me in unison. I heard myself gasp. Instinctually, I moved away from the window. I felt like I had been caught spying, but I didn't know why I felt that way. I looked down at my hands and I saw they were clenched, a clear sign of fear, but I didn't know why. I pulled the curtain closed and glanced out again. This time, the kids were gone. I decided that I would cut back on caffeine immediately because obviously it was making me overly anxious. So I put on some music, ordered a pizza, grabbed my books, and got to work. I started feeling better and soon forgot about the kids. But that's when I heard a knock on the door. I felt the anxiety well up again. I paused, looking hard at the door and wondering if I should answer it. The knocks continued. "Pizza!" I heard a man yell. With a sigh of relief, I opened the door. "Hey, John," I said, seeing the all too familiar face of my delivery driver and classmate. "What took so long?" he chided. I shrugged it off and grabbed the box. "Hey," he seemed a little uneasy. "Do you mind if I hang out here for a few minutes?" I looked at him, wondering if he was hitting on me. "It's nothing like that," he insisted. He looked over his shoulder, and I felt my anxiety return. I grabbed his arm and pulled him and the pizza into the apartment and slammed the door. "Was it the kids?" I asked in a shaky voice. "Huh? Kids? No, I'm hiding from my ex. I just saw her drive by," he said, leaning toward the door and staring out the little peephole. I rolled my eyes and felt the tension fade. "Get out of here," I laughed. I pulled open the door, gesturing for him to leave. But his eyes looked at the threshold, and he turned pale. My gaze followed his, and my blood ran cold. There were the 3 kids. Their skin was eerily pale, and they stood emotionless in the doorway. My eyes met the eldest, and my heart almost stopped. His mouth was drawn tight with anger. His brown hair hung loose around his face, and the hood of his sweatshirt was pulled low, and his eyes were completely black. "We're hungry," he said in a low and angry growl. I went to shut the door, but I was frozen. "Let us in," Spot, the youngest of the group. "We're cold," she muttered. I found my hand gesturing to let them in. My body tingled with the sensation of danger, but my brain reasoned that they were hungry kids and needed help. I felt hypnotized. My thoughts were cloudy and distant, but I snapped out of it when John pushed me out of the way, placing himself between the doorway to my apartment and the kids. "You kids need to go home," he insisted, and he slammed the door. As the door shut, we both heard the oldest kid yell through the doorway at us. "But we chose you!" "What the hell was that?" John asked. But I couldn't reply. I stood staring at the doorway, and the only thing that broke my concentration was when I heard the TV turn on. I snapped out of it. "They could have had contacts. It could have been a prank," I said. He grabbed the pizza box out of my hands and plopped himself on the couch, opening up the box and grabbing a slice. "Well, what are we watching?" he asked. "Don't you have to work?" I asked, still in shock over the creepy kids, and now confused that John had made himself at home in my apartment. His eyes got wide. "I'm not going back out there," he said with a nervous laugh. I couldn't really argue that statement. I would not want to have to walk out to my car in the dark after that experience either. I sighed and looked over at my textbooks. Then I went into my bedroom and grabbed a pillow. "You can stay here, but I have to study," I sighed. and then I went and took 3 slices of pizza, my books, and went into my bedroom, shutting the door behind me. I looked out the window, down over the parking lot, and I saw the kids lingering near John's delivery vehicle. So strange, I caught myself saying. But I had to concentrate on my test tomorrow. I didn't have time for this any further. I felt myself getting frustrated, and I sat on the bed, opening up my textbooks. Soon enough, I would fall asleep, surrounded by my textbooks and my notebook. That night, though, the kids haunted my dreams. They were everywhere. At my work, at my house, at my school. I couldn't shake them. In the morning, I had no time to think about this any further. I grabbed my backpack and rushed to school for my exam. I walked into the busy classroom and sat down at the front desk as usual. "Are you ready?" the professor asked. I gulped hard. "Yeah," I said. "Do I have any more time to look at my notes?" She looked at her watch. "You've got 5 minutes." "Okay," I said. I decided to review my notebook one more time, and as I opened the notebook and flipped through every page, I saw scribbled across in red ink, "We chose you." I felt panic flood through me, and I moved through every page of the book. I couldn't see any of the notes I had made, just the bright red letters. We chose you. I couldn't take my exam that day, and in the weeks to come, I would deal with anxiety that would almost end my college career or my future. And it wasn't until years later, when a patient sat across from me, riddled with anxiety and paranoia, that my memories flooded back. "We need to get to the cause of this irrational fear," I insisted, looking up from my notepad. I saw my patient twitch anxiously, but he nodded in agreement. The 40-something attorney reached into his dress slacks and pulled a piece of paper from his pocket, handing it to me very reluctantly. "This is why," he muttered to himself, slinking further in his chair. I smiled kindly and took the paper from him, and then unfolded the worn-lined note. And there, in red ink, I saw the words in the same handwriting scrolled angrily across the page. "We chose you."